I have 8:30. We'll call the Sawyer County Finance Committee meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Bruce Paulson, Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Don Pettit. He's here. Tom Duffy.
Here.
Stacy Hessel.
Here.
Let the record indicate we have a quorum. We have 2 people present, Mr. Duffy and myself, Mr. Kinsley, and we have 2 people virtual, Ms. Pettit
Yes.
and Ms. Hessel. Please rise for the national. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Number 4, certification compliance open meeting laws.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statute.
Thank you. Number 5, the meeting agenda. The agenda is set. Number 6, public comment. Anybody have anything under public comment? Now we'll move forward to number 7, approve the minutes of the previous meeting on January 13th. Thank you.
A second.
We have a motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Ms. Hessel to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, is Jean coming down?
No, she took ill, so Tom and I can try and
All right, you want to fill in the blanks?
we'll try to. So this is the Wisconsin Help for Homeowners Homeowner Assistance Fund Program. It's ARPA funding that has become available for homeowners who perhaps have fallen behind in property taxes or penalty and interest and special assessments after, I believe, 2018. People can apply for reimbursement for some of those expenses that have been incurred that they're behind on, delinquent on. She has, the deadline for applying for this program has already passed. She did submit an application for this program, so we're just waiting to hear if we are awarded this particular program or not. We anticipate we will be. We just want to let you know that this has become available and we likely will be participating in this.
So how will people apply for that?
I honestly don't know the details yet. I thought.
Yeah,
Jenny
there is
was
a-
gonna-
There is an application process. It doesn't run through the county. The county's responsibility is to apply the payments for those homeowners who do apply. So there's no money outlay by the county. It's just assessing the payments properly from this program to the delinquent taxes and assessments. Yeah, it's Wisconsin DOA program.
So you apply to Madison?
Mhm.
Do we need a motion to have it?
Yes, please, if you
Yeah.
want to take action.
There's a motion made by Mr. Duffy to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Pettit.
Yes.
There's a motion by Mr. Duffy to approve, second by Ms. Pettit. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 2, treasurer's agreement, final.
I think that's just part of the application process.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And then we have a copy of letter B, sales tax update.
Yep. Continuing with the graph that Diane had implemented, Janine is submitting sales tax. The collection in January of this year was 169,000. For accounting purposes, we actually pull that back to December. So for the year, last year, sales tax were about 650,000 ahead of what we had budgeted. So last year was a big sales tax year.
That's good news.
Yep.
Is that because, what, more tourists in town, more people spend money, or what's, why?
I think a lot of it is online sales tax was implemented.
Inflation. All right. Anything else we need for that? We'll move to number 9, ARPA fund update. We have 4 alphabetical letters here. Maybe Mr. Peters would like to come forward.
Yes, Ed Peters. I'm here mainly to represent the Sawyer County Cudaray Environmental, or excuse me, Economic Development Corporation. And we have received requests for a match and support from 3 different vendors. As of yesterday, received information that S&K TV Systems was not going to complete an application. We have representatives from Novato, Bevcom, and Mosaic here to answer any questions in addition to the materials that were provided you in the outline to request for ARPA funding. And I think we'll start with Novato's.
You have a presentation or something?
I have a slide deck of 2. And I'm sure Ed saw this yesterday. Basically, it's a route going from Draper, Loretto, following the 70 corridor down through Winter, and then pushing back east on W. It's a $5.5 to $6 million project. It's passing 1,421 rooftops. And we do have an ask for the county also of $100,000.
Now, earlier we approved one coming down Highway B and to get to Winter, correct?
For Novato,
I thought we did. Who went down Highway B?
Lenroot Township was approved last summer.
Pardon?
Lenroot Town,
Okay,
pardon me, part of Lenroot Township was approved last summer.
okay. I was thinking it went all the way down Highway B and the long three-year plan was to get to Winter. Maybe I misunderstood that.
There was a discussion on that. That plan was never submitted.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So this is just up in Draper, then back to Winter and around Lake Winter.
Correct.
Is there a deadline when these have to be in?
These all have to be filed with the state by March 17th.
So if it was to take place and we provided some funding for that, and if it got approved by the state, when would that take effect? Or when would you start to work?
It's possible work could start in 23, more likely 2024. The state has taken anywhere from 3 to 6 months after the award deadline to do the grant. And there's call it an industry backlog in getting fiber. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes it's over a year.
Thank you. How much is the total grant? Estimated project is $5,500,000.
Correct.
You're asking the county for 100,000.
Correct.
Question or comment, Ms. Zimmer?
Thank you. The first round of requests that came forward, there was a very tight deadline because it was a state program, if I remember right, where you were looking for grants. And so there was rather quick action on that. And now I'm wondering, are these state funds, federal funds, and what can help get these requests before the committee and the county with longer time to research? Because March 17th is another tight deadline, and I guess I was not thinking that future requests would be up against deadlines like this again.
The Domenico, do you remember the date in December they issued this? They released it December 9th or?
Yes, it was very early December that the Wisconsin Public Service Commission announced the grant cycle. There's a considerable amount of pre-planning that needs to go into design, GIS data, capacity building for these grants. This is not federal funds. This is bond funding through the state of Wisconsin of $100 million. This is a pretty standard interval for grant cycles at the federal and state level. I think there's an overwhelming sense of urgency to bridge the digital divide nationally, as noted in the infrastructure federal bill that passed, allocating $62 billion. So I would expect to see more grant cycles coming to bridge that digital divide.
Thank you. Yes. Ms. Cecil?
Yeah, I just have a question on our job as finance committee was to come up with a priorities list for ARPA funds, and we still have not done that. So now we're looking today at approving $850,000 of ARPA funds. We already gave $600,000 last year. So I'm just wondering when our priority list is going to come so that we can make better decisions on how to use those funds. So without that priority list, I don't want to approve any of these things because we don't know if the rest of the board wants us to move forward in this direction. So I'm just a little bit frustrated with all these broadband requests.
To answer your question, Ms. Hessel, the final rules just came out last month and we just got an interpretation this week. They are effective April 1st. So we were kind of waiting for the rules, which are really game changers in the way that we can use those funds. So I anticipate that once the final rules are out now that we can make better decisions on the use of those funds, because it really does give us more flexibility, because we were really constricted to broadband projects as far as capital items that we could expend ARPA funds on. We couldn't use it for highways, road construction, anything else under the interim rules. Now that the final rules have come out and we can claim lost revenue up to $10 million. And as you know, our total allotment of ARPA funds is $3 million, but it really gives us greater flexibility to use those funds for other things if the board so desires. So the priorities that you would have set even a month ago could be totally different than how you can use those funds today. So, and it's a good thing because I think they did realize that it really did constrict the counties under the interim rules. So I look forward to being able to use those things for things other than what the interim rules allow.
So to piggyback on that, could I request that at the March meeting, we put the priorities as an agenda item for the finance committee?
We can attempt to do that, yes.
Thank you.
I was just at the Wisconsin Counties Association meeting this week, and we talked about this kind of thing. And a lot of counties are, in the same spot, formulating, some are even formulating separate committees for these funds. Those are the larger counties that have significantly more dollars, but everyone has been very patient in the allocation of these funds pending the issuance of these final rules. So we're not behind the eight ball as compared to what other counties are doing too. It is prudent and reasonable to wait for these final rules because as I said, they are game changers in how we can use these funds.
And if I can comment, the state is really pushing the public-private partnership aspect of this. And we do have, if we go to the next slide, we do have one more ask, and Dr. Carlson took sick yesterday. I don't know if the formal request from the board, I do have a copy of the ARPA form. This is the unserved areas around Windigo Lake. It's 118 houses. It's about a $750,000 build, and we are asking for $1,000.
Windigo Lake.
It's kind of hard to read, too many shades of red.
This summer.
Windigo Lake is off of Highway 27 at the historical marker. A little lake that you see as you come up this way off to your right. I don't know if you, when you said Windigo, if you were not sure where it was.
Just trying to, with this, trying to get down to Winter and Draper.
Other side of the world, sir.
I know where Winter and Draper's at, my friend. I know where Windigo Lake is at. Well, Mr. Duffy, what do you think?
Well, I wish we had the answer to the priority of the list that Ms. Hessel's asked about. But I guess what's our thought today? We should delay this until next month. And it makes see the whole county, see how it fits in. We have anybody else bidding besides Novato?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I make comments? However, I was allowed in, I don't have a raise hand button. All the other counties are highly better served than the Winter Corridor or Loretto or Draper. We have children that cannot access internet for school. They cannot do their projects. They don't have internet at home. This is when we were looking at approving all the other requests. It's up in the Hayward area or Stone Lake. There is nothing that is coming down 70 or B into the Winter area. This would fulfill our needs earlier than later. We're doing a disservice to the children in the Winter, Loretto, Draper area by not putting this at the top of the priority list. I've had 4 children go through the school district, and it was a big thing when you have kids sitting outside the Winter library trying to get internet service when we were going through the pandemic and even before that. Or trying to piggyback off of many of the restaurants, the co-op, or people's homes trying to do their homework with their parents sitting in their cars. I would ask that I put a motion forward for it to be approved. I would ask that it be put at the top of the priority list if you want to leave it for next month. But the southern end of the district of the county is highly underserved.
Thank you. So, yes.
Just be aware, even though the deadline for this grant cycle is March 17th, so it seems like we have another month. That is the date of the next board meeting. So our board meetings being at 6:30 p.m., there wouldn't be opportunity in March to get a board approval. That said, we've got the meeting next Thursday evening for the February board meeting. And we had contemplated perhaps a special board meeting if we needed one to get the construction bids through, if we didn't have enough time to get things organized by February. I'm just outlining some options for you as a committee to consider. But that's a big if there is another board meeting in February.
Well, I believe Ms. Pettit said that she would make the motion, whether it be this month or next month. So I'm going to take it that it's this month, and I'll second the motion because I want us to move forward. We've approved the other ones. This falls in the same category as the ones we approved before. And I'd like to see it get done, providing they can get the grant. So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion?
Just a comment. We'll have to add resolutions to these.
Yeah. But we can do that. So, yes. Ms. Hessel?
I'm just wondering, are you making the motion for the 850,000 for all three? So A, B, and C, or just the Novato?
Mr. Novato at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
For discussion, certainly your prerogative to do as you wish, but you may want to consider reviewing the presentations from the three and contrast and compare if you want. Just a suggestion.
I guess I'll take that suggestion. So we'll just leave this on the table and we'll go to the next one, then, if that's acceptable. Thank you for your presentation. Number 2, letter B is ARPA funds purchased from BevCom.
Thanks for having us here. I did not know that we would have the ability to do a PowerPoint, so I just printed off a map of the area we're looking at. I don't know if you've received this yet. We've been going back with that a little bit on things, but the shaded green area is the area that we're looking at in Sawyer County for a Wisconsin state grant. It's about 500 homes passed.
Randy, you didn't get all the rats.
Soon. We're looking at about $5 million on the project. We've just a little history on BevCom. We've applied or been successful on 27 grants in the past. We have 22 completed, 5 active. 3 of them will be done this summer. And we're applying, this is in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. We're going to be applying for this one and one down in our Minnesota area that we cover. We have pre-purchased enough fiber to start the project in 2022 if awarded. So our goal is to have the build out done this next summer. And then we would do the conversions from copper to fiber for these customers through the following winter and wrap up in 2023. Pretty aggressive, but we feel we can do it with our past experiences with our grants. Ed had sent a couple of questions and they're pretty much out of the application, but we sent out surveys to all of the homeowners in the shaded green area. And we got back 38%, which is very good. We're whenever we do a survey and we get 38%, we know we have pretty good interest. And out of the ones responding, 31% of them have students in school that need better broadband service for remote learning. Telehealth, 38% of the participants said they utilize telehealth, which was a good number. All the households in the project area are based underserved by the PSC's definition of broadband for Wisconsin. And again, like I told our timelines would be to try and have this finished up in 2023. The biggest benefit to us, I guess, is the public-private partnership for our application. It helps us move up in the rankings as an applicant. And we have had partnerships with our Wisconsin grants in the past, anywhere from $5,000. We've had some up as high as $300,000, but anywhere in between, we would be interested in moving forward with this project because, like I said, our biggest goal is to set up the partnership, get awarded the state grant, and start the construction this year.
Thank you. Where did you get the number 350,000 for the county? May I ask?
That, I have to say that was from me. There was a total amount that was listed on the proposal that came forward to the Economic Development Corporation or through the interest. And that was just the division between, since this is a project that covers portions of West County and Sawyer County, that was the proportion of the number of houses or premises served that was in Sawyer County.
Thank you.
And with that being said, after hearing the first proposal and then talking this over with Ed, I mean, if, their project's about a $5 million project, ours is about a $5 million project. $100,000 application would be very much appreciated, or $100,000 county portion into the project.
Thank you. Any other questions? With that, should we move to the next one and then we can deal with all of them one time?
Thank you. If you would like these sent electronically, I'll email them to you after the meeting. Sorry about that.
Good morning. I'm Domenico Fornaro from Mosaic Technologies. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. And thank you for your past partnership status on the grant that was awarded last year for Big Shatak Lake. That is in planning, detailed engineering, and we anticipate completing that project in this calendar year. The grant proposal that we have is an extension of that platform, but I'd like to just take a brief second to go back and give a little bit about Mosaic. We are a nonprofit cooperative. Roots go back to 1914. Shebardin Cooperative was formed in 1957. And over the last several years, we've put a tremendous amount of effort into putting a best-in-class fiber network in. And we completed all 3 grants that were awarded in the fall of 2020. In 2021, we're closing those out right now and getting past the copper plant challenge of attenuation and bad signal and bad speed. So the Big Shatak grant, just like the grant that we are proposing today, will be an XGS PON technology, which is scalable to 10 gig per customer, and that is symmetrical. So I think it's a unique opportunity, and rarely do you get an opportunity to have an investment and have a grant match a significant amount of that investment. When we look at the funds that have been put forward through ARPA and the grant, $100 million grant cycle in the last round, the governor and the Wisconsin Public Service Commission are dedicated to assisting and truly bridging that digital divide. So in accordance to the questions that were asked earlier, and that will be part of the grant, any location that is served with this grant, which is, if we go to the next slide, you'll see that it is a $6.4 million grant submission. That's the cost. It passes 1,471 locations. It's approximately 36.5 square miles. It is an extension off of the grant that we will complete this year. Our intent would be to, if awarded, our intent would be to design it and then implement it in the calendar year of 2023. In regards to telemedicine, all of those percentages and factors stay the same. Any person living within the shaded area would have access to scalable gigabit services at a competitive rate, along with all of our other products and services. And as a cooperative, we use that investment and that return on investment back into additional grants to continue to permanently bridge the digital divide. Fiber is a best-in-class technology. I often get asked if there's a better platform or when fiber will be obsolete. It is a permanent solution. I think it is. Japan just launched a 300 terabyte over a single strand of fiber per second. And so when you're looking at the mass quantities of the need for data and the transmission and the projection rates that go into 2026, 2027, there are projections anywhere from symmetrical gig needs for a family of 4 up to 2 gigs for a family of 4. These are permanent solutions that put the onus of the cost of maintenance, repair, and upkeep post-award. So from a county perspective, once the initial investment's done and the fiber is built, the onus of continuing to maintain that plant and equipment resides with the organization submitting the grant. So respectfully request your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And now we come up with the 400,000, same thing?
No, that was what was actually requested by Mosaic.
Any questions from the committee?
Ed, are you representing economic development, or who do you represent?
That's what I'm here for. It's the Economic Development Broadband Committee.
And do you have a recommendation of these proposals?
Well, personally, I think that this set of proposals does exactly what we've been trying to do for the past 2 years, and that is provide broadband coverage and availability to underserved portions of Sawyer County. One is in the eastern portion of Sawyer County, which is all of, basically all of the town of Draper and a good share of the town of Winter. The BevCom proposal comes from basically the Excellent Exchange, which covers Reargore, Meadowbrook, and Meteor townships. So we have the southern tier of Sawyer County covered, and Novatos, or excuse me, Mosaics covers the western part, or expands a portion of the western part, which is a potentially, I would say, a more difficult and diffuse area to cover. So I think all three have their strengths, and they provide service outside of areas that are presently covered. None of the vendors can apply for these grants if they don't have justification in terms of what's available there now. And all of the areas, to my understanding and from what I've seen, are underserved or unserved by current standards.
So are you recommending we approve all three of these, or which one?
I have strong yes, I would make a recommendation for all three, but I'm not a part of the committee,
I know.
and so I'm not here as a representative of a district in Sawyer County, even though I am, but that's all.
Goes over.
Thank you. I have a question about where existing fiber is, but I just want to preface my question with saying that I think that all the presenters are very well qualified. They understand that the county views this as a need and the county wants to work with the providers. But then also Supervisor Hessel made a very valid point that with the funds and some other huge projects the county has, consideration of your request has to be done thoughtfully. So my concern is from the first round of requests, because I do have property on Highway F. Again, with the quick turnaround of the Mosaic's first request, I was not able to verify, but I did talk with the PSC. My concern is that there is fiber that CenturyLink laid down in F. I wanted to know if it's possible that if CenturyLink is getting out of the area or out of the business, if Mosaic could pick up with the line that's already in there instead of duplicating the line. And I had commented to Mr. Gardner, although I understand he's no longer with LCO or Sawyer County LCO Economic Development Corporation, that I viewed the role of that entity as possibly providing guidance to the county about how these companies will network together, not duplicate service, and come together with a plan that would connect the county. So my concern now is there's individual requests. I have a fear that part of what's already been approved, there's already fiber optic. And how do we know that this request is not also possibly duplicating something that CenturyLink already did?
Well, that's quite a bit. Let me go back to, I cannot speak on behalf of CenturyLink, and nor do I have access to their records, plans, or fiber locations. Those are proprietary.
Nor do I know the scalability of their fiber. Just because you have a fiber line in the ground doesn't mean that it's designed for the high capacity for transport necessary to multiplex into provide gigabit speeds. And so I can't answer your question as to their network. I would tell you that from what I've read, they are in the process of an acquisition. They're being sold to the Apollo Group. There's very little opportunity. There's no opportunity in a partnership to access their fiber to then connect into our fiber. You're talking about multiple layers of a network. It's a lot more complicated than just the fiber. The fiber is the easy part. Once you get the fiber in the ground, you've got, you got your last mile network, your middle mile network, your transport network. There's a significant amount of complexity that does not permit for that layer of integration. It would not be cost effective in my professional opinion. So having worked for Fortune 500 for 20 years, I feel very knowledgeable on how CenturyLink or other for-profit internet providers work. So I hope that answered your question. If you need a little bit more clarification, I'll be happy to give it.
Let the other gentleman behind you. Go ahead.
We have been attempting to buy.
Can you step up to the microphone so I can be heard?
Movado has been attempting to buy a cable that the other half of a cable we own jointly with CenturyLink from CenturyLink for at least 5 years. They don't use it, and the answer is no. And then to go a little deeper into what part of your question, Domenico and I were talking before the meeting. There's a possibility we have a small overlap around Wendigo Lake, and we would solve that so there's only one cable there. We compete and we cooperate.
Thank you.
You'll notice our design also, we partner with BevCom as well. So we're not interested in putting grants forward where other providers are good partners and enhancing their networks as well. So prior to any grant round, we work with Movado, we work with BevCom to ensure that what we put forward is valuable and isn't an overbuild over an overbuild. So.
Thank you. Yes.
And then the Wisconsin Public Service Commission, they post these, and then if there's any overlap, they get sent back in to be contested. And so like you just said, we're not going to try and overstep our boundary. We're covering all the stuff in our excellent exchange, all the area that, the company's been serving for over 100 years. We're just trying to be good stewards for the people that have been loyal to us and get them up to speed with what they need with fiber. So.
Do we know are ARPA funds available for this? We don't.
Yes, this is one of the items that were under the interim rules as well as the final rules. So it certainly is ARPA fund available. I think what we would propose now that the final rules are out is to make use of the revenue loss that we're allowed to take, which then allows us to, even though broadband is allowed under both interim and final rules, it has to be underserved and this and that and the other thing, that you need to make sure that you've got all those ducks in a row. If we claim all of the 3 million as revenue loss, as I said, it gives us a lot more flexibility in not only providing money for broadband, but other purposes the county may be interested in as well. Keep in mind too, there's also, the infrastructure package that also has recently passed. That was the other thing that everyone was waiting for to see what would happen. So there'll be other opportunities for other infrastructure funding in the future as well. We don't know what the rules are for that yet. But certainly broadband has been a need that's been discussed here in the county, and it does fit under the current program, yes.
Is there any benefit for us in delaying this, having a special meeting, not trying to delay the whole project, but having a special meeting just to discuss this and see how the total county works together and how it patches together?
Certainly your prerogative.
May I ask?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
my comment would be to Supervisor Duffy is that we have not gone before the whole board before when we voted on the other applications. They were approved. So now why is it different? Because we're trying to we're trying to do better to the people that are underserved or not served at all. This is a big issue. We're in Winter and Draper, going towards Radisson, Coudray, down to Exlin. This is a big issue.
My thought was, I'm not against delaying it. I just want to know more facts. I don't feel I'm in a position to really vote on this thing, to be honest. I think I'm ready to abstain rather than vote to support it.
You don't want to do that. Where did you come up with a dollar amount of that 400,000? What?
400,000 with Mosaic's contribution would increase so matching funds is a component of the scoring of the grants. And so very similar to the ask for the last grant and our contribution, we're attempting to get north of 10% to 20% match on the grant to increase the probability of approval.
We know the timeline of when they expect to share any results.
Yes, so I believe there's going to be a period of time at the close of the 17th. All grants need to be submitted. They'll go under review for scoring and ranking. There'll be a rebuttal period where providers can contest if they believe that an area is served utilizing the maps. Then there's a short window for applicants to respond to those challenges. I would suspect somewhere between May to July, we would get the actual award. And then, as mentioned earlier, from there, this round is different from the last round because the last round used ARPA for the 100 million intermediary grant cycle last year. Because this is state, it doesn't, the rules change a little bit based on what types of funds are being allocated out. And so I would expect, under contract with awardees, by early fall for proper planning. And that more aligns with what the public service, Wisconsin's very different from the middle states and southern states, a very narrow window to bury fiber. The ground freezes pretty quick, and so you got to be prepared to get the plow on the ground as fast as possible, or the bore rig, because you got six if you're lucky, maybe 7 months out of the year that you're going to get any work done. And so, what I've observed is the Public Service Commission shifting to award in the fall, so you have time to order material and be prepped to go full steam ahead in the spring. Last grant cycles were in December when I first started in Wisconsin, and then you award them in the spring. It doesn't give you any time to secure labor, to secure materials, and so that it adds it could, unless you're stockpiling a tremendous amount of material, which most providers of our size do not do. This cycle provides ample time to gear up to complete the grant within the next calendar year.
Ms. Zoller.
The last round, providers went to the local units of government to get contributions, and I'm just wondering if within these requests, if any of the local units of government are contributing.
Did you go to any of the townships?
We did, and at this time, I'm waiting on a call back from one still, and the other one is giving a letter of support but had already committed its funds. So elsewhere.
In our situation, Meadowbrook town is committed to being a public-private partner, but to a much lesser amount. Nothing's been finalized yet, but it's more.
Let's talk to Mirador and Murray and meet here. They all have meetings beginning of this month, this week, I believe, or early next week. It's at run by their board.
Yes.
And we are in the same position. We have upcoming township meetings during the next 2 weeks. We'll be talking about this.
Yes.
And actually, last evening, I was present at the town of Winter meeting, and because of the timeframe, the request from Novato was not able to be on the agenda, and so there could be no action taken at that time. And so, but the next meeting would be at least far enough in advance that it could be used, but there was no action taken like that.
I think the town of Winter meets every 2 weeks, don't they?
No, it's
Once a month.
it's the second Wednesday of each month.
Yes. Ms. Hassel.
Now, just a few reminders. We have a motion and a second on the floor. And just by approving it at finance, it does bring it to the February county board meeting next week. So we're approving it to be moved forward to the full board. It could die at the full board. So our job is just to approve it to bring forward to the full board. Also, issue that Mrs. Zomer is able to talk in front of a supervisor. She's not a county board member, so I just want to remind you of that. And then also, just it is a need. Broadband is a need for our community. I understand that. So if we can finish the motion, bring it to the full board next week, then we'll have the decision made. So we could talk it to death tonight, or today, this morning, but we do need to bring it forward to the full board.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you. So, Mr. Huff, we have a motion and a second for the first one. I think we probably should do them individually. So we're gonna go back to letter A for Novato. There's a motion and a second to approve and present it to the full county board. Any other discussion regarding that? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries to present it to the full county board. Letter B is BevCom, and they're asking for $350,000. Any discussion regarding the $350,000? I understand you used a formula to get that number. What if we dropped that number back a little bit, Ed?
Well, I guess I thought that it was stated that they would go with 100,000.
Okay.
In their testament.
So we have letter B on the for 100,000 from BevCom.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Pettit. I'll second the motion. So there's second by me. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries to forward to the full county board. And letter C, ARPA funds from mistake, and that dollar amount is 400,000. How bad will it reflect if we cut that back a little bit?
It's all a calculated risk on getting the grant approved. So I would request the 4, ideally no less than 3.
So the request is for 400,000. What's the thoughts of the committee? I'll make a motion to approve to forward to the full county board. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by myself, Ron Kinsley, is second by Dawn Pettit. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. So all three of these will be in front of the county board on next Thursday, a week from today at 6:30 is the meeting. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Anything else you want for this item? Our ARPA funds.
Is the
There is-
county board gonna require more detail and more depth? Do you think is there enough facts in front of them to get them to vote for it? I guess that's my concern.
What other facts would you like them to present?
I don't know, I'd like to see the whole county and see how it pieces together. How much more is there? How many ARPA funds are available? How much will the townships give?
Yeah, I think the last time around, they showed like a financial piece that
Yeah.
showed the total cost and then who was paying. I was probably gonna contact them anyway for some of that
Is this-
detail.
Is this puzzle fit together now so the whole county's covered?
Not yet.
What's left? I mean, but that's the question we're gonna be asking. How much is left? How much money are we spending on this project?
Well,
And is
that's a
there
valid
enough?
question. And the other side of the story is how much grants are gonna be available for the other parts of the county.
Yeah,
Those two sides of that story.
I agree.
I can just give you, we have a sizable area you see on our map that's up in the tribal area on the reservation, and we've been working with them for 3 years to establish the right way to get the new fiber in. And it looks like it'll be a couple more years before we get that approved. And at that time, we would probably go for a federal grant, seeing that it's on tribal land. And I don't know how the public-private partnership would even look at that time frame, so that'll cover, by that time, we'll have most of our excellent exchange, all fiber to the home when we get that point done. So just kind of giving you an idea where we're heading with it.
You have it like,
County.
example, you have it in the village of Radisson. When you're gonna get to the outskirts of Radisson.
That would be phase 2 for us. This would be phase 1.
Okay.
Usually what we try and do, and we've had good luck with that with our, the PSC, is we do things in 3 phases, kind of carve it out in an area that we can get the projects done in 2-year cycle. We put it in 1 year, connect it up to next, and just keep rolling that way. So we would be looking at phase 1, phase 2, and then probably the tribal area would be phase 3.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
And I will get you a revised request for the 100,000.
Thank you. Number 4, bond issuing process. Mike, want to help us with that, please?
I can introduce this topic. As you know, we are finishing the planning stages of the construction and remodeling of the courthouse, including the courtroom and whatnot. So the bids for construction are due next Monday, February 14th. So we'll see where we are at as far as budget wise and getting those contractors lined up for the construction. You'll recall previously, the county board authorized the issuance of $8 million of general obligation bonds for the payment of that construction. And so we need to issue those bonds. So we've been working with PMA Securities. Brian Della has been before this committee and the board prior discussing our debt plan. So we've laid out not only for this debt issuance, but the other debt that we have issued for our capital items that is within the plan that Brian Della has presented. And this fits in that plan. But there's a process that needs to be accomplished in order to get these bonds issued. So we have with us today Michelle Weiberg from PMA Securities, and she will help explain exactly what that process is and what we'll be going through over the next month or so here to get these bonds issued. So Michelle, thank you for your patience, and I'll turn it over to Michelle Weiberg.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Want to make sure, first of all, you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So that was a great introduction. If we move to this, the first slide that kind of lays out the financing schedule. A year ago, back in February of 2021, the Finance Committee and the board adopted the initial resolution for this project not to exceed $8 million. So that is in place. At this point, we just want to kind of give you an overview of what that financing might look like and lay out the next steps. So having this conversation this morning here with the Finance Committee, again, construction bids will come in this coming Monday. And then bringing the financing plan to the full board on February 17th so that they can look at it and vet it and ask any questions. And then move towards an actual bond sale. We would look at the Finance Committee meeting on March 10th to give you the draft award resolution. And then on March 17th to the full board, we'd have the final award resolution. PMA as financial advisor would take bids the morning of the 17th from prospective underwriters. We would send those results to bond counsel and kind of coordinate the final finalizing of that award resolution for the county board to approve at their meeting that night. So that's how the timeline lays out for the actual issuance of the debt. The initial resolution in place, again, is not to exceed 8 million. So when we take a look at those bids that come in for the project itself, we can certainly fine tune the issuance amount down, not up, from that not to exceed 8 million. Moving forward to the structure of this issue, we are looking at doing a 20-year bond issue with level debt service. So level total debt service, meaning principal and interest payments combined. We have a placeholder in here for an interest rate of 3%. Certainly current rates are lower than that, probably by at least 25 basis points or 0.25%. So we're looking at current rates for a 20-year issuance for a AA rated credit like Sawyer County at around 275 or even maybe just a touch lower than that. So again, we won't be locking in interest rates until March 17th, but this gives you an idea of what total debt service would look like using that placeholder of 3%. So we can see annual debt service payments averaging about $540,000 per year. Moving forward, how does that fit into kind of your overall debt picture? And this is just a snip from the levy model, which was also an attachment in your packet. And that levy model not only looks at debt service, but also looks at your operating levy. We're isolating just the debt service levy on this slide, and we're showing you, moving from left to right, the existing debt that the county has outstanding, principal and interest payments, that placeholder in the middle there in pink for this $8 million debt issuance, again, as 20-year level debt service. And then placeholders going forward for approximately 1.2 million on an annual basis to take care of capital needs, issued as very short-term indebtedness to pull that expenditure out of the operating levy and into the debt service levy, which is of course outside of levy limits, showing you on the far right-hand side how all of that adds together and gives you a total levy for debt of, in 2022, you're at about 1.2 million. You would step up in 2023 to 1,750,000 and then level out at about 2 million per year thereafter. That $1.2 million issuance is a placeholder essentially going forward in perpetuity. So we sort of assume that on a rolling basis. And whether or not that happens or not will obviously depend on needs, but this is just illustrating to you how that would fit into the overall debt picture, allowing you to take a couple more steps up in your debt service levy over the next couple of years, and then be able to level that out in the future. The next slide gives you the operating side of that equation of the levy model. So looking again from left to right, we have the first several columns that showing the components of the levy that fit under levy limits, which of course are controlled on an annual basis by net changes in net new construction. So we have actual data and then again projected data in 2022 and thereafter. And then on the right-hand side, those elements of the operating levy that are outside of levy limits, we assume those components are either flat or a couple of those are increasing at approximately the rate of net new construction as well, to give you the total operating levy on the right-hand side. So when we add the operating levy and the debt service levy, the next page just gives us the annual increases in the total levy. So the operating component and the debt service component, based on obviously the assumptions that I talked about in terms of changes in those levies and changes in net new construction. But what we can see here is that the projected change in the levy in 2023 and 2024 are where we're kind of stepping into that increased debt service levy and then leveling out thereafter. So we can see that changes in the total levy thereafter are, approximately at net new construction or something slightly lower when we combine both operating and debt service. The final slide just gives you an idea of where interest rates are. It is no secret that we are at historically low interest rate levels. Despite any talk of inflation, we still see very low long-term borrowing rates. So certainly this is an opportune time for the county to go ahead and address these capital needs and take on the $8 million loan or bond issue to fill these needs. So we're looking here at the bond buyer index, which is kind of a proxy for a 20-year debt issue that's rated approximately a AA. So very much in line with Sawyer County and what you would be issuing. The historical low point of this index was reached in August of 2020, obviously when we were living in a very uncertain world. Not that we're not living in a very uncertain world today, but certainly back then when we were still, in the midst of the pandemic is when this index bottomed out at a 2.02%. So we're off of that low, but not significantly so, with the current level of this index at a 2.33%. So just giving you some historical context for where interest rates are today and kind of the very attractive nature of the bond market as you approach the issuance of this debt. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. I won't read our disclosure slide to you, but happy to answer any questions that you may have on the borrowing timeline, et cetera.
Questions from the committee? That's a lot of money. I guess no questions. What else you want to tell us? The timeline's a big thing, I believe, isn't it?
Pardon me?
The timeline, I believe, is a big thing for the county.
Yes, I mean, and again, you'll have the opportunity to bring this before the entire board. Brian Della will be joining you for that meeting on the 17th of February. So certainly any questions that come up there, and maybe when the bids come in on Monday, there'll be more questions as well, and there'll be some more work to do prior to the meeting on the 17th. But then really PMA working with bond counsel will put all of the wheels in motion to actually get everything set to sale, to get in the market for March 17th.
Thank you.
Michelle, is there any other action needed? Or is the next action by the board the March 17th action?
That is the only action needed, right? Because that initial resolution is already in place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Number 2, Sawyer County debt service levy limit model.
And I believe that was attached kind of just for your information. I'm happy to walk through that, but we did pull from it in this slide presentation, that operating component and the debt service component. So you've already kind of seen the left and the right-hand side of this. So happy to answer any questions you have on assumptions that have gone into this, but wanted to just make sure you saw all of the detail here, not just the snips that we put into the PowerPoint.
Appreciate that. I think the next step is to bring it to the full board.
Yeah, that piece was just added. That's what you've seen before. So just wanted to make sure that you saw that, you've seen that information before, and then Michelle kind of dove into the details of it so that you had the full picture.
Any questions from the committee for her? Not hearing any, Michelle. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Number 11, Finance Department update.
Well, I assume all of you have heard, but maybe not. First of all, Tom is retiring. I also have submitted to Tom my retirement with a little bit of an open-ended date, April, May timeline, just waiting to see what's needed and how it fits in time-wise with replacing Tom's position and hopefully replacing my position. So I don't know, we know exactly, Tom probably knows the timeline better than I do. I don't know what the administrator.
Yeah, so there is a committee that's working on replacing the county administrator position. So the ads are out for that, and those are going to be coordinated in mid-March, I believe. So after hearing this from Mike, we're constructing that ad and getting that out immediately so that we can replace the finance director or accounting manager type position as soon as we can. Keep in mind that we also have the open accounting position vacated by Janine when she took the county treasurer's position. So we've got that position to fill as well. And so the current plan is to let the new Mike position select their accounting position. And we anticipate that accounting position to work more closely with courthouse staff rather than highway staff. That person will certainly assist highway with their accounting needs, but we'll have that position work out of the courthouse instead of the highway. And so we've been working with Gary Gedhard and his staff to make that happen. Gary's been working hard to get the last year closed. Now that Janine is, the treasurer and has very limited time to help, but between Gary and Mike and other staff, they're working through getting year-end close, and then we move on to next year.
Mike has served us well. I appreciate all the work he's done.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoy it.
Number 12, future agenda items.
Yeah, I'd like to address the issue of the retrocession that we heard in the paper. And it's really troubling, and I wish you'd have heard about this some time ago. But the proposal is there's a criminal matters involving the tribe all be moved out to the reservation. As you all know, the courthouse or the jailhouse is more than half full of Native people. And if this goes through and the criminal jurisdiction is moved out to the reservation, what effect does that have on our court demands? I mean, there's no doubt if you cut it in half, if we all had known that when we voted this, we wouldn't have done it. And then the question that's kind of alarming is that who's against this retrocession? I mean, the tribe is for it. The government's not going to oppose it. And I don't think Sawyer County can oppose it either. So we have to talk about it. I don't know what we do with it. We're in the middle of this thing. We got our finances in order, but when Tom tweet says he thinks we need both systems going on, that isn't true. It's a numbers game, and if you take half of the judges work away in Sawyer County, how can you argue we need another judge? So how does that bounce off the rest of you guys? What do you think? I don't know. We can't sit here on our hands and not address it. And the people in the community talk about it. And I don't know what the answer is.
Well, because this is future agenda items, so we're discussing whether we're going to have this on a future agenda, which we probably should. Last night, we got a little update at Public Works from Mr. Brian Bissonnette, supervisor, and he shared with us, I understand that they've been working on this for a long time. He doesn't feel it's going to happen overnight, and no one knows how long it's going to take to have it happen, if it happens. I've had quite a few phone calls myself. People are very concerned about that. If you're going to move forward to the second courtroom or not. with this going on. And I told them, we have to wait till all the chips fall out because I don't know what's gonna happen. So.
And by the time we know, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna be too far down the line. We've got the building already done, So it's.
I've asked Mr. Huff if he communicate with Mr. Channing to see what kind of answer we can get out of him.
Ms. Pettit,
Oh, sorry. Ms. Pettit, go ahead.
My understanding is it will be done within a year. That's what I'm hearing from my end. That this will take place, it'll take a year for it to happen. And I did have a concern. I've gotten numerous phone calls regarding this. And I don't know if we need to have I asked the county administrator to put on a closed session for our full board, all the county board supervisors meeting next week regarding these issues. And then also some of the, not legality, but certain members sitting that are on two boards or represent boards should not putting forth motions for money to be donated if they sit on a board. Also, if they're on two boards, which are governing two forms of government, voting on both sides of the aisle. It should not be happening. I don't believe it's ethical. But this is a big issue because this is what it's getting relayed to me. This is what I'm getting emailed, that there's too many hands in the pot on both sides of the aisle. And with what transpired, yes, it was in the works, but why was that not disclosed to us when we were doing the sheriff deal for the LCO tribal and the sheriff's office to happen? Why was it not discussed with us or disclosed if it's been being worked on, which it should have? And we have one of the tribal governing board members sitting on the board. So there's many lines that are crossed. And I think a lot of times people are putting forth motions that they sit on a board and then ask for money and then do not take themselves out of the vote. That discussion shouldn't even be put forth if they sit on a board and then put to ask for money. So there's many things that with me not rerunning that now people are coming to me and are worried about, just like the courthouse. I've gotten the same thing. I said, we need to wait and see. Then I believe land has been purchased across from the casino from B, asking what is going on that. I said, I had no idea at this point, but I believe that there needs to be a closed session about some of these things.
Thank you for your comments. A lot of that has to be done in open session. Ms. Hessel?
Yes, I just wanted to add the priorities list to the agenda.
Yes, okay, thank you. We'll certainly try to have that done.
It's only been a couple months I've been asking.
Well, again, we had to wait for the final rules. Yes, thank you. Thanks for your patience. Anything else we want to add for?
Well, I think that the tribe, it'll take them time to build a jail.
Can't talk about it.
But even so, it takes a year or 2 years. 2 years, we have a court system here that's far larger than we need. 2 judges, we don't need to. But I don't know, what can we do? What should we do?
That's a good
Tom,
question.
should we put that on the agenda for?
It'll have to be on an agenda if you want to discuss it, yes.
Can we put it on the county board supervisor agenda next week?
That's what we're talking about, Ms. Bennett. Yes.
The admin committee got postponed from today till next week. We can talk to that committee chair and see if it can be on that agenda and then move something to the board.
So being it's the same day, we'll have to put it on the agenda and then we can always remove it if it's not. We will do the best we can to move forward and get it done. Thank you for your comments. Number 13, correspondence, reports, conferences, meetings, and other matters for discussion. We all have concerns regarding that second courtroom, I believe. We'd like to know in the future what's going to happen we have to go with the best information we have at the time. Thank you for your comments. Meeting adjourned.
No, we really can't put the brakes on that.
Thank you.
Court.